There's a saying that goes, here's my story and I'm sticking to it. There will be times in life when you will need to tell your story, to share your testimony about what God has done for you. You never want to allow anyone or any situation to silence your voice. You've got to tell of the goodness of God and stand up and witness boldly for Him. So, as you go through this week, I want you to really think about your story and practice sharing your story at every opportunity to the glory of God. This is the last lesson in this season. The new quarter starts next month, but it's also the year 5 of the Sanctuary Sunday School, which is now the Sunday School Renaissance. It's season 5 for us, and I'm so excited. Now, those of you who have ordered the planner already, this again, full color dated, and it coincides with all of the lessons from now through next August. If you've already ordered your book, you will definitely get it before the season started. If you have not done so, you need to do it right away so that you'll have it at the start of the quarter, because once we start doing those videos and start sharing our books, then you're going to want one and you're going to be behind. So you want to go ahead and get it today. Now let's get to this lesson about Paul faces his accusers. And again, this is the Apostle Paul. And this chapter is really a touching chapter. If you've been following me for a while, you've probably heard me say that Paul is one of my favorite people in the Bible because of his courage. And so here, he's telling his story, man. He's talking about what he did, and he's talking about how he was there and how he persecuted the Christians, how he was there when Stephen was stoned, and how he would kill and attack anyone who was calling on the name of Jesus. And he told his testimony about how one day, we know the story, on the road to Damascus, Jesus stopped him and said, Saul, his name was Saul, and he said, why persecutest thou me? And he said he fell from his beast and he couldn't see. And Ananias prayed for him. All of this stuff is in this chapter that Paul is talking about. And he changed his name, and his name became Paul. And he went from persecuting the saints or the Christians to being one of the greatest missionaries of Christianity that there ever was. And he wrote most of the New Testament. He wrote all of the epistles. And so we see here he's talking, and I just got so much encouragement reading through this. And I know the lesson doesn't really start until further down in the chapter, but go back and read the entire 22nd chapter of Acts, because it tells you about Paul. And so he stood there and told them his story, and the Jews, they denounced him and they were ready to offer him up. And so then it says they were going to scourge him. Scourge is a type of beating, a brutal beating as a punishment, right? And so then Paul told them, he said, wait a minute, I'm a Roman. Now, by saying I'm a Roman, Paul had a dual citizenship, both Jewish and Roman. So when he started talking, he was speaking in Hebrew, right? And so they were listening to him, and he was speaking in Hebrew, and they did not realize that he was a Roman. And so he said, wait a minute, I'm a Roman. So the significance of that was that the Romans, they were the world power at the time. And so when you see the word centurion, it says the centurion was there. A centurion is a Roman soldier. So this was the Jewish council that wanted to attack Paul and to beat him. And so the centurion said, wait a minute, hold on. This man is Jewish. You need to watch what you do to him. You need to watch how you handle him. And you need to watch what you say to him. And I love that, because when you understand who you are, you don't have to be Roman, but when you understand who you are, right? And God is no respecter of person, which means no matter who you are, there is some level of authority, God-given authority and value in you. So when you can remember who you are, and you can tell people who you are, right? And you can own your story, and you can tell your story, people have to watch how they handle you. They're going to have to watch what they do to you. They're going to have to watch what they say to you, because there are consequences for dealing with certain people in certain ways. And Paul knew who he was, and he wasn't afraid. And this entire unit was about courage, how people stood up in the face of adversity. And these lessons are so timely because we need this same courage today. And sometimes it's really easy to let stuff slide. Have you ever been in a situation where you heard something, right? And then you like, was that what I thought it was? And something in you rose up where you felt like you should have said something, but you didn't. Well, you should have said something. So going forward, you want to be like Paul and you want to speak up. And it shows here how the Jewish people, they actually wanted to harm him and they wanted to do away with him because of his testimony of Christ. When you don't conform, when you don't follow every tradition, when you don't do what's possibly politically correct, there will be consequences. And that is not the time for you to back down on your story, on your testimony. That is a time for you to reach back and say, wait a minute, you need to know who I am and be true to yourself, be true to the God in you. And that is how you allow God to work for you. Paul faces, I love this subject, Paul faces his accusers. He didn't run from them. He didn't hide from them. And see, even in his testimony, he was talking about when he started preaching, God sent him out to preach to the Gentiles because he knew that he wouldn't be safe there. That wasn't because of fear. That wasn't because he thought they would do something to him because God was in control. It was because A, the gospel of Jesus needed to spread to the entire world. And B, God preserved his life that way for him to accomplish everything that he wanted to accomplish. And then he came back and he faced his accusers. So at all times, God was in control. And that is a key message right there. I don't care if it's a centurion, mayor, governor, police, chief of police, the army, National Guard, Navy, Marines. I don't care who it is. God is in control. And when you are a child of God, it's only so much people can do to you. Even when Paul referenced himself being there when Stephen was stoned. When Stephen was stoned, it says he looked up in heaven and Jesus stood up. You know, Jesus is still standing up for us, okay? God is still bearing witness of us. God is still backing us up. He's still taking care of us. So we don't have to be afraid. Remember who you are and never, ever, ever stop telling your story.